I feel betrayed by our government. I mean, they portray themselves as professional, honest, competent people who have our best interests at heart. I mean, the military is there to defend us. The economic policies are to make us more prosperous. We have an education system. We have all these structures in place. But none of these are meant to help us at all. It's all a self-serving propaganda machine, honestly. Starting a war with Russia does not make me feel safer. I would feel a lot safer, and I'm a woman, okay? If we got along with these countries. We're told Russia's bad, North Korea is bad, but are they? We were told we had to start a war in Iraq and Afghanistan to get those weapons of mass destruction that were never there. And you hear Scott Ritter talking about how he told Bush they were never there. He was kicked out of the room. People say Trump never started wars. Trump was one of the people that started putting weapons into Ukraine during his term. And these US weapons in Ukraine have been a red line for Russia for years. I mean, how would we feel if Russia put weapons in Tijuana? I tell you, I do not feel safe. The US is trying like saber rattle Russia right now. And the Russians, I actually think Putin is a better diplomat and leader because he's not falling for the US provocations. He's building alliances. They lie to us about everything. And it's not just the lies about, oh, we're here for democracy. We're here to help Ukraine. No, you're not. You don't give a shit about democracy. Democrats and Republicans are, to me, indistinguishable. And people with other ideas are not even allowed on the stage. They kept Kennedy out. He's got, I think, like 10 or 20% of people who would vote for him right now. They tried so hard to kick him off and they kept him off the debates. They keep changing the rules. Jill Stein is trying to get on the ballot. She got 3 times the number of signatures required for Nevada, and they're trying to get her off the ballot too. Now, I'm not saying I would vote for them or I want to vote for them, but don't tell me we have democracy. They don't want democracy. They want a fascist authoritarian regime. That's what they want. They're indistinguishable. They cater to the people who pay for their campaigns. That's who they cater to. And every once in a while around election season, like now, they get worried they might not get votes. So they start their talking points up even more. Oh, we're going to forgive student loans. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Oh, we really don't want the Israelis to bomb the Gaza. But, they're still sending them weapons. I do not feel safer when you sanction all these countries. And now we're making enemies, and all these enemies are not collaborating. That doesn't make me feel safer at all. It makes me feel lied to, and it makes me feel less safe. The other way that they're lying to us is by pretending certain problems don't exist, or homelessness problem, or poor education, the difficulty recruiting for the military and the police force, even defunding the police. What is going on in our cities with all this crime? I just feel really betrayed. And, I pay taxes and I'm a generous person. I like giving to good causes, but I don't believe our government is a good cause. They're running the dollar into the ground, $31 trillion in debt. Everyone knows we can't repay that. The dollar, they're destroying the dollar. No, like the money in Social Security has already been spent. Banks have all these bad assets on their balance sheets, trillions of dollars in derivatives. These banks are all going to go under eventually. Might not be tomorrow, but it's going to be in the next few years for sure. They don't want to talk about any of that. They don't want to talk about the stuff that matters, the illegal immigration. Fine, have immigrants, but make some rules about it. They can't even agree on the rules. They're just pathetic. They just lie. And thanks to social media and independent journalism, it's getting harder and harder to lie. And now the US has made so many enemies. They've made so many enemies, these people in Washington, that Russia, North Korea, Vietnam, Iran, Saudi Arabia, they're all building alliances. Now Serbia wants to join. I think Armenia wants to join. They all want to join the winners, the people who want to collaborate. We're just getting shut out with our stupid warmongering. And then I don't even know why the White House has press conferences, because everything they say is a freaking lie. They don't want to answer anything. They dance around the questions. I feel really betrayed by them. And so, people get all wound up about Trump versus Biden. They're indistinguishable. Whether you follow for this cult leader or that cult leader, I mean, it's really just your preference whether you like this old decrepit guy or this old decrepit guy, this liar versus that liar. If you actually look at their policies and take your emotion out of it, okay, take your emotion out of it. Someone left in the comments, Trump never started a war. Look what he did. Look at all the saber rattling he did, putting weapons in Ukraine. The stuff he did in Israel with didn't he move something to Jerusalem? He's been supporting that, and he is supporting the Israel war in Gaza, which is making us less safe. He may not want to, but he has to. It's part of the system. It's a system. We have to get money out of politics. But if you look at their policies, they're indistinguishable. I mean, Trump didn't put up a wall. Maybe he slowed immigration a little bit, illegal immigration a little bit. He didn't stop it. Trump did a tax cut for the rich. Biden did a tax cut for the rich. None of them care about the working man. There are people, I came across a TikTok video recently that was posted on YouTube with this man who owns a painting company, married man, has a daughter, and he's covered in paint and he's crying. He's so desperate, like, I can't make it. You know why you can't make it? Because they're fucking destroying the dollar. That's why everything costs more. Our dollar's losing value. And they're not talking about it. They're not addressing it. They're not trying to change anything. That's why they're betraying us. They're lying about the things that are broken. They're starting conflicts. Look at all the billions and trillions of dollars they're spending making enemies and sanctioning other countries and starting wars while ignoring all the problems at home, going into debt, devaluing the dollar. That's why you have inflation. Okay, I'll explain to you in stocks. Okay, when companies repurchase their stock, they do that to increase the value of each share. Okay, so say the company is worth $100. I'll make it simple, and you issue 100 shares, so each share is worth $1. But say you make a bunch of money, and now you're going to repurchase 50 of those shares. Okay, so you have $100. Your company is worth $100. At 100 shares, they're worth $1 each. At 50 shares, they're worth $2 each. And if you only have 20 shares, they're worth $5 each. So now what happens if I issue more shares? So the US isn't buying back shares, they're issuing shares. So it's the opposite. So my company is worth $100, I have 100 shares outstanding. Now I want to raise more money, so I'm going to sell more shares. But my company is really only worth $100. So if I have 1,000 shares, each share will only be worth 10 cents. That's what they do with the dollar. So you need more shares for the same amount of purchasing. I'm not even sure if that's a good example, but the point is they're diluting. When they print money or create money out of thin air, they're not creating value. They're diluting the value of each dollar. That's what they're doing. And the $31 trillion in debt, we have to pay more and more interest to pay the debt. I guess we're paying $1 trillion a year just on the debt. We're not a rich country, we're in debt. That's what I mean. I feel super betrayed because the money that I pay in taxes isn't going for anything good. It's not going to help children, for education, for infrastructure. It's going for their pet projects to send bombs and start conflicts with countries that we should be getting along with. What the fuck is wrong with these people? What is wrong with these people? I don't feel any safer with their saber rattling. It's really ridiculous. I'm You know, I I follow a little bit of the geopolitical stuff. I follow what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, Israel, because I listen to some independent journalists, former CIA, former Marine colonels, generals. I watch Judge Napolitano. You guys might watch the same channels. I watch the Duran Report, Colonial Outcasts. I didn't even know on Colonial Outcasts he has a geopolitical analyst on often. She lives in Cyprus, which is an island in the Mediterranean. And I didn't even realize that 4% of the land in the island of Cyprus is owned by the British. It's part of the British Empire. When they allowed Cyprus to become independent, they did it saying that they could continue to own 4% of the land. And on that land, the US has bases. Like, there's this colonialism going on everywhere. And, then they say Russia's the bad one, but we've done 77 coups. Did you know that in Ukraine, they had a president that was elected in Ukraine? The US overthrew him in 2014 and put in Zelensky, who would be the US puppet, because the plan has been for 20 years to use Ukraine to fight Russia, to build up. So NATO has been putting weapons, and NATO is supposed to be a defensive alliance, but they're provoking. There's no reason to start this stuff with Russia. So put all these weapons there. That's where our weapons are going to try to weaken Russia, but Russia isn't getting weaker. Russia finally said, we've been trying to be friends with you, US. We've been trying to be friends with NATO for years. You guys keep lying to us. You're backstabbing us. And we can't be friends with these other countries because you'll sanction us. But guess what? The US sanctioned them anyway for defending themselves. So Russia's like, okay, well, we're sanctioned, so we're just going to make better alliances with China, North Korea, Vietnam. They started building more alliances. And even Saudi Arabia is now part of it. So we're making enemies. That's what I'm saying. Like all this saber rattling, even people in the military are fed up with what is happening. So I feel really betrayed by our country. I think all the money that we're giving them, they're not good stewards of our money. They're untrustworthy. They lie, and they're just in there to look out for their own self-interest. It's like it's a corrupt system there in Washington. It's very upsetting to think about it, actually. So it doesn't matter if it's Trump or Bush. I mean, it's like whoever you're in love with. It's like they're identical. Nothing's going to change until, what's going to happen? The US is going to lose the war in Ukraine because it is the US leading the war in Ukraine. Let's not forget, the US is leading NATO, and the US is trying to weaken Russia. And the US is the one saying Zelensky can't give in, got to weaken that Russia. And then they, put some bombs into Crimea. Russia's just like, we're not going to take your bait because we're on our mission here in Ukraine. They're going to win in Ukraine. And then the West, between losing in Ukraine and the bombs we're using to kill Palestinians in Gaza, and we're losing. We're exposed. The US is being exposed finally as the warmonger it is, and it's losing clout because the US has gone bankrupt. We're bankrupt. We can't pay any of these debts. We're basically bankrupt. We've gone bankrupt in our imperialism. Pretty much, our imperialism, our colonialism, and our meddling in other countries to weaken them and gain more power is not working. We're going bankrupt doing this, okay? It's not working. Whether it's Bush or Biden or Newsom that they put in, I can't stand that guy. Gives me the creeps just when he talks. Hated the 2-year lockdown he did in California. It's nothing's going to change except the consequences of our actions. And the consequences of our actions are going to be the same, whether it's Bush, whether it's Biden or Trump or whoever they put in, it's going to be the same. We're on our path to bankruptcy because they're betraying us. They're not man enough and woman enough to deal with the real issues, and they're just looking out for themselves. and their own little pocketbooks and their next election, and they do not care if they run this country into the ground. So the best thing we can do is not vote for either one of these idiots. Not vote for either one of these idiots. But then they tell you, you waste your vote. They try to gaslight you into voting for one of them. I don't even know. We probably need to do a march on the White House and just be like, we want change. Address the real issues here. Stop sending money overseas. We need money here. It's not making us safer. It's making us less safe. We're making enemies. We should be making alliances with these people. One thing Trump did that I really, really liked, he met with Putin and he met with Kim Jong-un. And people were so upset. Why? You should be talking to these other countries, building alliances. They tell you Russia is bad, North Korea is bad. They sanctioned North Korea. Why? Because they have nuclear weapons? So do we. So does Israel. So does Russia. So does Turkey, I believe. So why can't they have them? They haven't done anything. Oh, they're mean to their own people. Well, I don't know that. Maybe they are. But our government is mean to us. They squander our money and they lie to us. And if you expose them, they try to silence you, like with Julian Assange. Or they, during the lockdown, we were all silenced during the lockdown. Even the student protesters on campus were silenced. We have a little bit more freedom here, maybe, than in North Korea. But I don't know. I don't know what they do. They could be bad. They're all bad. I'm not saying North Korea is an angel or Russia is an angel. They all have flaws. Every government has flaws. But I can definitely see the flaws that we have in our foreign diplomacy. And I feel very betrayed spending all this money over there when people here are suffering. Children are suffering. And killing these Palestinians. Why did Israel get this land in the middle of the Arab nations anyway? And then was just allowed to run amok? That makes no sense. And then they came in and go, we're the chosen people. We're going to start bombing you. And it's been, ever since Israel got there, they've been causing chaos. They didn't just say, we're glad to be here and coexist with the indigenous people. They've been trying to kill them ever since. And Jared Kushner already has plans to build hotels on the beach in Gaza. Don't forget, he did say that. And I saw a woman interviewed, I don't forget what channel it was on. This Jewish woman from New York City, she was in Gaza. There was an embedded journalist in Gaza who released a video, and he was interviewing these people, and she was saying, yeah, we've been meeting, we have plans, we're going to build our houses here in Gaza. There are already people planning to build their houses in Gaza. That's how crazy people are. There's so much evil in the world. I'm also watching the Karen Reed trial, and it's amazing. She's obviously framed. These cops framed her. These cops are under FBI investigation for that, framing her and a lot more other stuff already before, corrupt cops. And just watching them lie on the stand, like they're so committed to their lies. You can see in real time how people get invested in a lie, and then you're invested in the lie. It's like you ask your kid, did you steal the cookie? And they say no. And then they're so committed to the no, they can't ever say yes. Now they're afraid to say yes because they're going to lose face. And that's what our government is like. Fauci has never apologized for his stupid lockdowns that were never based in science. By the way, 99.6% of all the people in the world are still alive after COVID, despite getting the COVID or the COVID. Tried to scare you. It was a part of a control thing. It made no sense because Nancy Pelosi and Governor Newsom were filmed during the lockdown while they were telling us to wear masks. They were filmed with no mask. She at the hair salon, he at a high-end restaurant. Even Fauci was filmed at a baseball game sitting next to people with all empty seats around him because they knew it wasn't dangerous. They were just trying to control us just for the hell of it, or whatever reason they had. I don't really know. But I feel betrayed. I feel lied to. I feel betrayed. And I feel angry. How do you feel about it? And what can we really do? You know, if you vote for Kennedy, frankly, he's not going to win because most people are too stupid. They're like, oh, Biden, I love Biden, that decrepit old punk. I love Trump, that big liar. They're all self-serving, okay? That's the system. And don't forget, Biden is the one killing all those Palestinian children. He's sending the bombs, okay? And don't forget, Trump is also just out for himself. So really, voting for either one makes a little difference at all. You know, I think probably the best place to start is in the local races and in the congressional seats for the senators and the representatives. That's probably a good place to start because those people make a lot of decisions too. And to get people in there who are not funded by anyone, because once they're funded, you know, they're basically just, our government is basically representing the interests of corporations, and they're just out to make a profit. They don't care about us. Pfizer doesn't care about the future of America. They're just out to make a profit per share, like Boeing. They don't care. It's you know, we're riding the coattails of our past prosperity, but don't fool yourself. We are a nation in decline, despite the beautiful weather and the birds and the flowers and the blue sky. Economically and militarily and geopolitically, we're losing our status in the world, and I feel betrayed. I would love to see some great new ideas. That's why we need these other parties, even if we don't vote for them, to get new ideas. Let's hear some new ideas, some different ideas. That would excite us and pull our country together instead of dividing us over pink hair versus purple hair. They love it when we fight on Twitter or Facebook because then we're not looking at them. They love that. Not looking at them. They're the problem. And deep down inside, people know they're the problem, but they're not looking there. So they're focusing on pink hair versus green hair and this race and that opinion. Because deep down, we know something's wrong, but we don't know who to blame. It's them, the system. They're the ones you should be mad at, not each other.